welcome back to the L-5 podcast. We are back with another episode. Tonight we did a full feature film, No Sudden Move, which is on HBO Max.
God called me, offering me $10,000 to turn you in. 15 for the white guy.
Think you're the only one that can make a move? I can make a move too.
I have the keys.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna punch you now, sir. I'm punching you. This is going to be a punch.
Boom, boom, boom.
And since this was Jeremy's pick, we are going to let him lead off the conversation with No Sudden Move. So, Jeremy, do you want to read the plot summary and then also give us your 17-minute review?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Corey. And so the plot summary for No Sudden Move. In 1954 Detroit, small-time criminals are hired to steal a document. When their heist goes horribly wrong, their search for who hired them and for what purpose sends them winding through all the echelons of the race-torn, rapidly changing city. So that is your synopsis of No Sudden Move, and I'll go right into the 17-minute review. The first thing that I put down for my notes is lots of race relations. So as the description says, lots of commentary on race, you know, Don Cheadle's character being Black, obviously Kurt's character, that was, you know, apparent from the start, and there was some race stuff. So I put race relations and divides. There was a lot of like division that I noticed too. It felt like an old school, like Detroit up North City, even though you can tell there was a lot of like graininess in the camera edits. I see what they were going for. They had a lot of cars like 1950 Chevys and stuff like that. So I appreciated the ode to the 1950s, and I felt that that was pretty good. I put why is Don Cheadle so good? Because even among the all-stars, the characters, like Corey was saying, is packed with a lot of characters. I felt that he stood out, and that probably stayed pretty much the way it was during the movie. I really liked his character. I liked that he had kind of this like old school, you know, swag and vibe to him, but I liked his character. I also put something that I would like all of you to repeat after me when I say this, because this is annoying. And in the first 17 minutes, I had to say it, and I hope my crew agrees with me, but I'm just going to say it. So I would like all of you to repeat after me. Wide eye shots.
Wide eye shots.
Do not always equal great filmmaking.
Not always equal great filmmaking.
Wide eye shots do not always equal great filmmaking. And I saw that thing in the first 5 minutes, and I don't mind it for like obviously Dolby or movie theater or certain films that take advantage of that. But I felt that that was too much in this film. I felt in the first 17, I was like trying to figure out why it was happening. Now, some of the shots I will say, like, again, Kurt's character, Don Cheadle, when he stood up over people, when he was like this dominant presence, that was kind of cool because you saw like a shadow of somebody. You saw somebody kind of larger than life. But for the most part, it was kind of whack. And I didn't understand why that was a thing in this particular heist movie, as opposed to other movies. And so I put that in all caps, 18 bold on my notes. Why wide eye shots? And again, I don't think it always equals great filmmaking. So I have my crew repeat it, and that's how I feel. So I'm gonna pass the 17-minute review on to Brian.
All right, so it's a Soderbergh movie. So sex, lies, and 50s Detroit gangsters. So that's what I was expecting. So we watch a lot of movies where we set up a lot of characters up front, and a lot of movies that try to do that, they fail. It feels really forced and boring. But this one felt like you were unwrapping a sandwich that was wrapped in wax paper, like you might have gotten when in the 70s when I was growing up, and that was a good thing. It just felt like and I think that goes to the atmosphere, what you were talking about. There's so many old cars. We're really setting the time there. It really felt like the scenes were well set up. And I started thinking, as I was really kind of watching the scenery even later in the movie, that in the 50s was everything so run down, as you know, because a lot of the buildings that they were shooting around just looked a lot more run down than they might have been at the time. They're run down now, where they run down 50 years or 70 years ago. But in this first 17 minutes, it's not too clear what's happening, other than no one really trusts anyone, and they're just there to do a quick job, and that's pretty much all there is. That's where you get at 17 minutes in. But the other thought, it was good to see Brendan Fraser working. He's been gone for a while, or
No, he's
I
been
don't
in
know.
Doom Patrol.
On what?
Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol. Okay.
Doom Patrol.
I don't know what that is.
It's a TV show.
Okay. Yeah.
Based
So
on a comment.
okay, but the spoiler alert is there's no sex in it, just lies and bullets. So
Oh my God.
yeah. So there goes the sex, lies, and videotape thing. But anyway, but so far I was looking like I was going to enjoy this. I was giving it a 4. So, you know, for the early first look, I was giving it a 4. What'd you think, Stacey?
Well, when I first started watching this, you know, I can't tell about the, you know, wide angle this and all that kind of stuff. I just really thought initially, was I watching another episode of Fargo? That's what, if you watch the Fargo, the TV show, I'm not talking about the movies, but the TV show, especially that last season, I really thought, what we were watching? I really thought for a second I was just watching another episode of Fargo, which I liked Fargo, but it was one of those things that I kind of have to warm up over the series over that season, whatever season it is. I kind of usually have to warm up to it because it's usually kind of slowish, and I had the kind of same feeling with this one. In the beginning, Don Cheadle's character, I think the first 17 minutes, you see about the racial divide, the separation, and he'll ask him, well, do I look like I work for so-and-so, and versus are you from Jones or Aldrich? And then, and, you know, as we were getting ready for the podcast, I kind of turned it back on. And so the price difference, even in crime, Don Cheadle's character is getting paid less to do the same work. And so you see all at the beginning, but initially for the first 17 minutes, I was thinking, okay, I might enjoy this. I really think that it had everything I kind of liked, because I liked Fargo. It had that whole gangster, a heist, that kind of thing. It had all that. It had all those things that I tend to enjoy. I just hope that it would get a little bit faster pace, and, you know, some stuff will pull together for me. But for the first 17 minutes, I thought, hey, this might be a good one. And I'll probably give it, within the first 17 minutes, probably a 4, because I still wanted to see it.
Okay.
And get it off to you, Corey.
Okay. So yes, I echo a lot of things that everybody was saying. You don't really, when I watched the first 17 minutes, you really weren't introduced to a whole bunch of characters. You just had those first few. But there was enough there for me to want to continue to watch. I felt like it was interesting. I love Don Cheadle. I like Benicio del Toro. And I like Steven Soderbergh. I mean, I'll get into that a little bit later, but it felt like it was a little film noir, you know. I do agree with you, Brian, that it did look run down, but because they were in Detroit, I kind of was expecting it a little bit, you know, not to look so fancy and all that kind of stuff. If it was set in New York, maybe I would probably feel a little bit differently, or in Hollywood or something, I would feel a little bit differently. But I also was just like confused, because I was just like, what is happening? Because we were like just thrown into this story, and they weren't really using a whole lot of names. There wasn't really a whole lot of plot. It was just like, go here, do this, da, da, da. And I did like the racial divide that I saw that was going on there. I was concerned because sometimes in movies that take place in certain eras, they might skirt around things like that about like racial divide and everything. So I'm glad they kept that all real, and it was like right there at the front. You know, you could see it with Benicio del Toro's interaction with Don Cheadle's character. And I was like, ooh, okay, this I kind of like this because it feels really raw. It feels natural, you know? And so you have that angst, you have that, ooh, what's going to happen next, you know, or whatever. I really liked the conversation of where he was going to sit in the car when they first happened without really spoiling anything. But I like that scene. Because it just puts you in the tone of what you're going to expect later, and it puts you in the tone of where the setting is in this time, in this era. And I didn't catch the fisheye lens look. It didn't catch me in the first 17 minutes. It wasn't glaring for me in the first 17 minutes, but you do see it and you do feel it later on in the film. But in the first 17 minutes, it didn't really bother me. So I was at 3 stars in the first 17 minutes. There was enough there for me to continue watching. And at that point, honestly, I didn't know that it was a Steven Soderbergh movie. So once we get past 17 is when it clicked for me that I was like, this is probably, I need to find out who directed this movie. And then I found out and I was like, aha, okay, this makes sense. What's happening? These tropes and some of these things that are happening that make sense of who directed it. But I liked it. So Danny, you want to wrap us up with your 17 minutes?
Sure. So I just want to put out there that as usual, I had no idea what this movie was going to be about whatsoever. And so I kind of went into it blind. I'm not a car aficionado, or I didn't pay any of that stuff any attention. I just felt like this was going to be like a mob movie. That was my thought. I noticed Brendan Fraser, I'm not sure. But what I didn't know about him is, because Corey and I talked about this, it seemed like his voice was a little different, like he was playing into that whole mafia boss kind of thing. I don't know. But we were wondering if that's really what he sounds like now, or if he was really playing that part. Anyway, long story short, I'm not going to keep y'all. I didn't like this. So at 17 minutes in, I was like, what is this? This is just, it was dragging. I'm not interested in mobs. I'm not really a drama movie person either. So I noticed, I can't say I noticed the wide angle lens or whatever it was. I noticed something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I did, like Corey said, later on. But at this point, I gave the movie a 2.5. Had it just been something Corey and I were watching, I'd probably be like, I'm just gonna step on up out of here and you can finish watching. I didn't like it. It wasn't. I think Stacey hit the nail on the head. It was just too slow. Like they weren't getting anywhere in that first 17 minutes. And so, and not knowing what the movie was about at all, I had no idea what was coming. I just thought it was going to continue like that. So at that point, I wasn't very interested in seeing it anymore.
Okay. Very different.
It was just slow.
Yeah, it was dragging in the first 17 minutes. I will agree with that. Jeremy, did you give your review, your rating for 17?
Yeah, I realized that after I queued the Brian, I was like, dang, I didn't even say my number. Mine was 3.5, even though I made y'all repeat everything. Okay. It was good at first, but I'm headed towards Danaville. If you catch my drift, I'm headed towards Danaville in terms of the movie. But I had 3.5 just because, again, subjectively, 17, no more, no less, and I just took what I had, and I remembered the trailer too. So yeah, it was 3.5, and then obviously it changed. So okay. Yeah, there you go, Corey.
And I hadn't seen the trailer before this started, and we kind of read the little synopsis that was on HBO Max before we hit play to try and figure out what it was, and Dana was just like, "Oh God."
All I read was somebody recently released from prison go
Right.
through crime. Like that's all I got out of it.
Right.
So I was like, but yeah, and the first 17 minutes really went along with what they were talking about, and I was just like, really, this is okay.
Yeah. So what did you think, Jeremy, after 17 minutes? Where did you think of the rest of the film after that?
Yeah. I first of all, I want to acknowledge the pace, the tempo comments from Stacy and Dana. I agree with that. I mean, it picked up the middle of the act, the middle good. It was kind of like okay at times. Say that again.
You were breaking up. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I know it's storming over here, so if it breaks up, my bad. I was saying the middle act of the film that I caught, that was a little bit like faster pace, was pretty good. That was a contrast to the first kind of 30 minutes where it was a little slow. You started getting like certain characters, but I still felt it didn't make, even though it had okay character development, it didn't tell us who was part of who. Like you had people from different car manufacturers. Yeah, all these different things that I think Soderbergh just, and to me that robbed a lot of the film from the goodness of what it could have been. Like I think you also said this too, Corey, like it went over some of those things. Like it just kind of introduced somebody and then 5 seconds later you're hopping on to somebody else and then you go to another thing. And I think that was too much. So that's kind of a wild concept to me, to have such a slow movie that still skips over people so fast. Like I've never experienced such confusion. Like, why are we going over so many plot twists? Why are we going over so many themes and tropes? But still Soderbergh didn't go into detail enough to make them compelling. So to me, that right there took a lot of the essence of the movie out for me. I'm gonna say one more thing and I'll let somebody else talk. But for me, the movie went over so many different like directions and switches and turns. It was cool for the first 2 or 3 switches, and then it started to get confusing. And I'm not even talking like the last third of the movie, but more so like I would say when Don Cheadle, when Kurt was introducing, when there was the killing, you kill somebody and then there was some other killings and then they went to started switching money and stuff like that. Then he stole the plans. And I was like, okay, the plans are cool, but like, what are we doing with them? Why is it significant? Why should we care? And I didn't really understand that. And then, yeah, so there was a lot of characters that I didn't understand why they were doing what they were doing. I understood Ronald's character, Del Toro, and then I understand Don Cheadle's character. And I understood that, you have this person in Doug Jones, Brandon Fraser, whatever, in the movie where he was more so like the mob, kind of like the Nick Fury, like he's behind the scenes orchestrating everything. I get that. That's cool. But you only saw him in the first act, the middle, he kind of disappeared. And then you saw him obviously at the end. And I felt like he could have had a more significant role. So I was like, okay, he's being killed off. So people just being killed off for no significant reason to me is kind of whack. And then the stuff I just mentioned before. So I'll go into some more stuff, but I will let Stacy, I'll defer to you to continue. So.
Okay. I'm going to have to confess, soon after the 17 minutes, I fell asleep. So...
Oh my goodness.
Imagine why.
And so I had to rewatch the movie during the middle of the day. And
we talked about you, Stacey, because you weren't saying anything in the Discord.
you could have. So I looked at it, I was like, you didn't say anything, but I looked at it more. I was like, because I missed out all of that. I woke up, it's like the movie's over. But when I rewatched it or tried to rewatch it, I just couldn't really get back into it. There are like certain scenes that I was like, oh, okay, I enjoyed this scene. It's like there are certain parts like a scene here, a scene there, a scene here. But the link to go to those scenes, I'll do something else. I really could not sit there and watch it. I'm becoming my mom when it comes to a movie. If it can't keep my interest. overall, I mean, I liked the characters. I really did like to see the interaction between Don Cheadle's character and Benicio del Toro's character. I like seeing that interaction there, and that the racism in it just is like good old Northern racism, different from the South. But you saw that you just how they were working together, but not really working together for to get the things they're trying to do. But I did spoiler alert. If we're gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert, warning. The kitchen scene, which was like, oh, and I know McCulkin's, what is his first name? Because I can't
Kieran.
say his,
Kieran McCulkin.
Kieran, okay, because I was like, McCulkin's brother.
Yeah.
Kieran McCulkin. And every time I see him, and especially when he has that scraggly beard, it's like he's gonna be a bad person. I don't know, that's his go-to look for if I'm gonna be a villain or something, weasel character. He tends to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when Don Cheadle picked up on this is going wrong, his mask is off, and I was like, his mask is off. It's like if you're gonna show your face, and I just think about if when you see any show and they say, I'm not seeing your face, because you don't want them to kill you. And as soon as you do that, it's like, oh crap, the plan was to kill a family all along and set up those other two people. At the very least, Don Cheadle's character, which I was really thinking is trying to set him up to take the fall for the whole thing. But that seeing that and that whole aftermath of that play, once he told him what to do, he talking to the police. I think I did read the text about he must take happiness, a happy family. That was probably, it was scenes like that I liked the movie for, but it wasn't enough of that to keep me going into it or keep me interested in it. I mean, there's just parts of it I saw. I was like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. But I never got into the flow of the whole movie. And that just, I don't know what could have made it better. It was just something like you have like this, but nothing to keep me going through the whole process. It was just like, boom. It's like paint splatter. You like paint here, paint here. Can we just paint the whole thing so I can go through it? And that's what I never got that for this film at all. So,
Okay.
Dana, since we know we need to wait for you the answers, you might.
So a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I said to Corey, and this is what got us to look up the director, is this movie reminded me of Ocean's 11. So that is what I was really getting from this. The story on top of story on top of story on top of story kind of thing that's going on. You don't want to work for Frank. You don't want to work for whoever did it. And then it kind of reminded me of, as if you read the Bible, you know how they're like, blah, blah, son, and blah, blah, who's this brother, son. That's where I was going with it.
Bible according to L-5.
Like, Corey knows how many times did we stop it to be like, okay, so blah, blah, blah is Jones is here, and this is Frank, and this is who Watkins or whatever. And then there's Naismith, who I just think basketball. Anyway, so this are just all these names on top of names. And we've never seen half of these characters, so we don't even know who they are. And then to find out, like, all of this killing was over a Cadillac converter. Like, I feel like this movie, and again, I didn't watch any of the trailers, so I don't know. But y'all need to tell me this movie was about cars and the car industry or whatever. Just like Ford versus Ferrari, I knew what I was getting into. I think this movie would have been a little bit more enjoyable had I known what was going on, because when they got to it, exactly right. When they got to the whole Cadillac converter thing, I was like, I don't really associate that with mob activity. So they're killing people.
No, so I do have a question though. When did you find out about the Cadillac converter?
When they pulled
Catalytic, y'all. Catalytic.
Catalytic. I'm sorry. I don't know. Actually, I know nothing
Probably the
about
car guy.
Cars. They stealing them here in Georgia.
Dana like, come get one. Buy
Okay,
one.
so
get one.
again, I fell asleep. The only way I knew it was about cars was the end when they rolled up the thing and said,
Oh.
that was the only thing.
Oh.
But that's the thing.
This was a real story.
But that's just it. It didn't matter. None of that
Right.
really mattered about the story.
Yeah.
And I think you're hitting it all on the head. And I think that the problems that we're having with this film is that it set up some good characters at the beginning. Don Cheadle's character at the beginning is walking through the streets where he's going with so much presence and command to those first shots. And then he doesn't carry the rest of the film because they don't give him anything to do. It's full of all these other people that just make the film hard to follow. Who are all these people, and who cares? When he goes to get his suitcase, that was a more interesting scene where he was hiding that suitcase, and the people he was hiding it with was more interested in, well, what's his relationship with the woman who's holding that suitcase, except that he's saying he's never going to come back there again. And it's just like, that's more interesting than most of the rest of that movie. So
Brian, what happened with that book? Because that's another thing. Speaking of which, I didn't understand it.
Well, he gave it to the second most interesting character at the end.
Oh, see, I didn't
person
even know he gave it to
him.
somebody. I missed it. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Spoiler, all the spoilers here. But
like Don Cheadle's one job is to give that up, and get $5,000. That's it.
Nothing. And how is he gonna? Didn't he need more than $5,000 to buy the property he was trying to buy?
He
And
need $4,750. Now I did keep that in mind.
okay,
so
when he got $5,000, that's all he needed, nothing more.
But he was going for $125,000.
He wasn't going that hard.
Yes, he was.
Trying to get out. I mean, he got up to 3.
Yeah, he got up to 3.
375, I think.
Yeah, 375.
Yeah. It just kept climbing, and it just got ridiculous. That and then when that woman added her own life savings and is just so excited, but then
Okay.
So I just want to say one more thing about the total number of characters and how the film it felt like the film lost control of it. All of those characters and that much story in it. And it can be done. So if anybody's ever watched any Robert Altman movies, things like Nashville or any of his other movies, he packs them with characters. It just feels like 20, 30 characters, and they go boom, 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 and everybody's talking fast, and you're doing all this stuff, and it probably is full of wide angle lens shots. But the other thing that bothered me about the wide angle lens shot all through the movie, it felt like every single thing was that when you have somebody that's far away, the lens distorts the image. So when you're walking across the screen from one end to the other, in the middle, your normal proportions. And then when you get over here, you're teeny tiny squished, and it's distracting. You shouldn't be distracting your viewers with weird things like that. If you're making a straight film.
For no reason.
For no reason. It added no significance.
But that's Steven Soderbergh. He kind of just like he picks something just wacky to do sometimes and just throw it in there. I mean, it's just kind of his.
This was not a wacky movie.
No, I mean a wacky technique. Let's just say that kind of like what Zack Snyder did with Army of the Dead, and decided to do the bokeh thing and use a small, I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna say this.
Okay, next.
I am not necessarily on the same playing field with everybody else that's in this room, so I actually really enjoyed it. It kept me attentive to the dialogue. Like I felt like I really needed to pay attention to what everybody was saying to make sure that I connect all the dots. Did I connect all the dots? Absolutely not. But I liked the dialogue so much that it kept me interested to see where the hell are they going with this and how did they figure this out? How can I make sense of this? Did I make sense of this? No. Was there a ton of plot holes? Absolutely. But it still was enough there to keep me enjoying the movie. I liked some of the comedy bits. I liked Don Cheadle's delivery. I liked all the characters that were in it. There were 13 main players in this movie. That's a lot to juggle. It felt a lot like, you said, Brian, it can work. It worked in Ocean's 11. It worked in Ocean's 12 and 13, all those. So he can make it work. Steven Soderbergh can make it work. But the plot did have a lot of issues, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch. It didn't bore me at all. It just confused the hell out of me.
Yeah, which is why we had to stop it 10 times.
Yeah, we had to stop it a lot.
I mean, and Corey knows because I said this to him. So I do think some of the comedy elements were funny. There were some things that I thought were funny. And I did think the movie improved for me from the first 17 minutes.
Absolutely.
So, you'll see that my overall rating actually went up. But there were just so many things that I felt like this movie wasn't, or it didn't do, or it did stuff that it didn't need to do and stuff that it should have done. Because to your point, Brian, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but we were sitting there wondering, did he used to be married to that woman? Ooh, did he know they had a baby?
Right.
Was that his, or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
They together before he went to jail. Like, what's going,
Right.
And so we were interested in that kind of stuff. But then the other stuff, and that whole Matt Damon, wasn't he in Ford versus Ferrari?
He was.
Yes.
Was he, which I guess in this movie he worked at Ford, GM, and all of them at some point, or did something with all of them. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
Big four, I think.
Yeah, he was like the main. He was like the Thanos of all the Ford. He got it all. He was. He owned all four of the corporations. If he said snap, it would happen.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny right there. But yeah, I didn't know what this movie was supposed to be. And at the end, when they kind of tried to wrap it all off, I felt like the payoff, it didn't match up for me to consider this a good, I'll watch this again type of film.
I would agree with that. I don't think the payoff was actually there either. But Brian said, he said sex, lies, and videotape or whatever it was. He said sex. What'd you say? Sex, lies, and what?
I said sex, lies, in 50s Detroit at first, but it because there wasn't any sex in it.
What?
It was
What I was
lies
gonna
and
say is
Florida.
there's sex implied because you hear and see all the affairs that are happening. Like the conversation between Ray Liotta and Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get each one of them to admit it that they were having an affair. I thought that was great. Like I love that whole dialogue. Was really.
I'm glad
good.
you said Ray Liotta because it was kind of cool to see him again too. I haven't seen him in a while.
Well, it's funny because we just saw him a couple of podcasts ago when we were watching. What was that movie, Stacy? You suggested, I think, with the hotel. Hotel Crime?
That was a long time ago.
Oh.
Yeah, Identity.
Identity. Yeah, go back and watch that podcast so you can see Ray Liotta in Identity. But it was funny to see him. Fun to see him again. But little things like that, where they were like trying to connect the dots, and he was trying to get one of them to admit to being in their affair or whatever. And then
I knew he tricked him though.
Yeah.
I knew he tricked him. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Never admit. I don't care what anybody says. You just always say no. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Never admit that. Like, I don't understand people. Like
Exactly.
Right.
And then the little things like when they went to I can't remember the guy's house who had the plans, and Benicio del Toro sitting there with his wife, and he throws the blanket over her because she's sitting there crying. And he's like, okay, I need you to, I can't look at this anymore because you're bothering me. So he throws the blanket over her.
He does it so she won't look at him because he wants to take his mask off.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, exactly. He was tired of wearing the mask. He was like, it's been a long day. And he wanted to take his mask. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then little things like when Don Cheadle goes to his ex-girlfriend's house, and there's just these little subtle moments of things that happen that they don't have to actually speak out loud. So you can tell that the father did not agree with his relationship with his daughter. He leaves the damn door wide open.
Okay, so you think that was his daughter or her new husband?
I thought that was her father.
At first I thought father, then I wasn't sure anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, does IMDb say their names?
I don't know, but I thought that was the father. I thought that
what
was
did
the
y'all
father.
think? What did everybody else think?
No,
I thought it was the husband.
Me too. That's like Stacy said.
I thought it was the husband. It's
Right,
like
but I'm not sure
I
that
thought
the husband
he got him
let
a bigger, swollen man.
Yeah, but I'm not sure the husband would have let him in the true.
Oh, true.
Well,
I
I
mean,
true.
Well, he
But
had
I
his
think
stuff.
if he knew that they had a relationship, he's like, yeah, I know so and so. Maybe he was the one that, once he was gone, he could step in, and so, but he knew she was smart enough not to leave. I mean, okay, I put in a whole lot more effort in there.
I don't know.
I first saw he was dead and he was a minister.
I thought it was the father.
I saw him.
I thought it was the father, but there was, like I said, there were just subtle hints. There were not innuendos. There's another word that I'm looking for, but it's like, the father is there. I'm gonna say he was the father. The father was there and saying, "You are not welcome here by leaving the door wide open." He's like, you're not welcome here. And then the little small hint of the baby cry and him realizing, well, crap, I'm not going to be able to go back to her because she's moved on with somebody else. I don't think that was the baby's father.
Well, why would she be at home with her daddy and a baby? Where's her husband? Because it wasn't Dawn's baby, because she didn't even try to see the child.
Who knows?
Well, how long was he in prison? How long was he in
I
prison?
don't know that we know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I thought he was in prison for like 4 years or something like that. I can't remember. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, well, it's not here.
I don't know.
Quite a minute.
I don't know, but there was all those little things, and then I thought about things like Don Cheadle's character seemed like he was somebody who was just trying to get out of Detroit, go buy this land, and just start his life over again, right? So you're kind of on his side out of all the bad guys. He's probably like the good bad guy, right? He's trying to make a new life out of himself after getting out of prison. But then you realize his ass is greedy, just like everybody else is. Because it's like, he had all the money that he needed, and all he wanted to do is just like, no, we could go do this and actually get more. Oh, we could do this and we can just get more. And I'm like, that is going to get you in trouble. That is going to get you behind bars or dead.
And that's why Bill Duke hemmed his ass up too.
Exactly. So, things like that, just all those little things just made me enjoy the film. I actually really liked it. I don't think that I will watch it again, but I would recommend it to somebody who was into some kind of crime or type movies or something that they plot driven type movie or something like that. I don't know. I would recommend it to some people. I
don't think it's trash, Corey. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I was critiquing the things that I think that kind of repetitive, like they were super repetitive to me, that made it more so from being a great movie. Like, I don't think this is nowhere near a 5, but I also don't think that it's bad in the way that it makes you think, and like you and Dana are kind of sitting there pausing. Hey, did you know this character did this? Did you know that? Like, that's kind of intriguing to me. Now, it can get annoying when you're like about to finish the movie and you're like, okay, it's an hour 45 and we got like 15, 20 minutes. Can we just go back through it? But I think the last at least 20, 30 minutes were pretty intriguing. I know the payoff, we all have different opinions about the payoff. It's not as good, but I did like the fact that like Matt Damon's character said like, yo, this money gonna keep, while I'm asleep, this money gonna keep recurring. And if you caught it, obviously he lost the money, then he got it back and more. And so it's kind of like, I mean, even though his character was kind of like lame to me, it was kind of cool to be like, okay, so he's the one character who said, I lose money, but I get it back tenfold. So cool. And then like Dana was saying about, is this actually a car movie? Like, I didn't realize the catalytic converter thing until, like she said, the last credits is scrolling down. And I knew that
Really?
code book had to have
Funny.
some, I had
I
that.
said that's funny.
Yeah, it's just like you have a code book, you have these kind of like hints about GM and Detroit, obviously, but like I wish they would have went into that more. I'm not saying that he should have painted the picture like exactly how it should be, and it should be all the gaps filled, but at least give us some hint. Like I think it totally missed the mark with that. And to me, that would have been more significant, especially for those of us, like all of us in this call. I guess I'm a car person, but even I was thrown off. And I think that Soderbergh, I think that he wanted us as a viewer to have more history about it. And then we all sitting up here watching a movie and we still don't know what it's about. So to me, that ain't on us. That's on him to really give us an opportunity to talk more about that stuff. And GM and all that has a rich history. So it ain't like he would have had to dig a lot for all that information. All he had to do was probably take out some of the other stuff and add more about the history. Like, don't go into the like history of GM, but just get the characters to talk about their history or something. I don't know. He could have did it many different ways. You can get creative with it, but I felt like he left that part out. And that's what took it from being like a 4.5 to just a 3. Is that little part of just making it not about cars, GM, catalytic converters, but more so these characters and rapid turns and heists, which is cool. But I felt like the main part of the film was missing. So to me, that kind of hurt my score, but it's not a bad movie though.
That's a very good point, Jeremy. And I find it interesting that you feel that way because you are a car guy. And Dana and I caught, at least I can say, I'm pretty sure Dana agrees with me, but I caught the catalytic converter. That's what it was when they showed the paper. And I think it's just because we knew that was kind of a thing, and them being stolen and this and other. I didn't know what other kind of part it could have been. You know what I mean? Right. So I find that interesting. You being a car guy, just not getting that until the very end. That says a lot about the storyteller,
Right. And they showed the picture, like you said, Corey. They showed like the code book open, and I saw the part. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. It's in admissions park. Okay, catalytic converter, cool. But it was like 1 or 2 scenes, and that's it. Y'all, 1 or 2 scenes. So what were you saying, Brian?
Well, I was just gonna say I love that they were I think it was probably around the time when they showed the picture and they said it's some kind of muffler. And it makes sense that the catalytic converter and what it does wasn't really a big part of the story to these characters, but as viewers who are watching this story now, we know more about the impact of what that would have meant to the world if it had been available 20 years before it was, because the scroll, it says it wasn't even released until the mid 70s. If it was released 20 years earlier, this would have been a really important story to watch the importance of the pieces of paper and here's the plans ripped in half, and there's so much importance on those papers. It would be like the scenes in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom when they're kicking the diamond across the floor or the dance floor or whatever it is. It's like you have this thing where everything the weight of the world literally is in that notebook, right? Yeah. And how these events could have had a huge impact, and ultimately they didn't, because it all got squashed in the end anyway. And so it could have been a little bit more there. It could have been done. It could have been done a million different ways, but the end result was it wasn't really a story about the catalytic converter at all. So why bother with the scroll?
It's like having the Death Star plans and not knowing what the Death Star was.
Yeah, it didn't really have to be. This movie didn't have to be based on reality.
Yeah.
It didn't have to have any of that at all.
And that's what
And
Dana
it's
said at the end. She was like, "This is based on a real story."
Right. I
Yeah.
feel like they could have, if they wanted to redo this movie, I still won't watch it. But if they wanted to redo the movie, then to me, I'm just thinking about different kind of ways you could have sold this. I mean, everybody loves a story about big business and how they undermine the system and all the stuff they got away with, right? You know, I felt like that would have had my interest more than the way they worked it. And great point, Brian. You're right. If we look at this just from the characters, they don't care what this is about or whatever. Well, I didn't care that much about the characters either. So if they don't care about the movie, I don't care about it either. You know, but I just there's so many other ways. And I hate to say this, but for me, again, being a non-car person, if you had asked me what that part does on a car, I could not have told you. So you going, oh, by the way, you know, hey, it could help emissions. I'm like, oh. But maybe had you like given me a little bit more of that, I could have understood. I mean, especially in this climate, right? With everything going on, you could have made me care. But you just kind of threw it in at the end, and
has anyone here seen any of the Fargo TV show?
I have not.
TV shows.
I've seen. I'm not that far into the first season.
Okay. Watch like the last one with Chris Rock.
Oh yeah.
And this is just what put me in the mind of this whole movie. To me, could have been like a Fargo season.
Yeah.
And they could have done better character development. They could have had more of those different side characters. This whole season, that last season of Fargo, in a lot of ways was this movie. And that's what I was really thinking I was watching. Because again, like the whole thing about the cars, I didn't catch that to the end. I thought it was like some sort of whatever they were looking for was something related to gangster life. I just didn't know. I didn't know. And I mean, it wasn't that big a deal. It was just really showing the interactions of how, oh, this person is tricking this person, that person's tricking that person, and seeing how that goes, which again, kind of interesting, but I just could not sit through the whole thing of it. But I really think it could have been better because when I watched it, I think it would be better if it was actually a TV series or maybe something to give me more development in all the different characters. Because because I mean, like you said, you can do a lot with a whole lot of characters, like we've seen in Ocean's 11 and all the Ocean's films. You can see that a lot of characters can work, but in this case, it did not work in this case at all to me. There are like certain parts I could see, whatever, but it was so much going on, and you weren't getting enough of some of the people I wanted to see. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, can we do our final ratings?
Yeah.
For me, I want to give it a 2, but I mean, there are parts of it I really kind of like. I said parts of it here, and maybe if I'm well rested, I'll try to do this whole thing again. So I would say for now, I'll give it maybe a 2.5, possibly 3, 2.5. We'll say that.
So I'll go. So I said earlier how I was a 2.5, and this actually went up for me. So I'm going to give it a 3. And I think but like I said, the first 17 minutes were so slow that definitely the last part of it got better. And the whole pyramid scheme was of interest, so I could kind of see where they were going. And like, I really, really was feeling Ocean's 11, but they didn't execute it well at all. So, and I agree with Jeremy. It wasn't a horrible movie, but it wasn't a great, like I could see too many ways it could have been better. So I'm giving it 3.
I'm a 3 too. I went from a 4 at the start to a 3. So I went down on it. I am glad I saw it. I'm not disappointed that I saw it. I probably won't see it again. Like you said, I think I'm more interested in watching the rest of all of the Fargo series. than that. So that's where I am. 3.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Three's company. We on team 3. It is really like super disappointing because I wanted this movie to, obviously we all pick our own movies and you see the trailer, but the all-star cast. I mean, we can all of us could just name these people and name the accolades and name the movies, and then you put them all in this movie, and we all, if you've been paying attention, you've seen kind of where we stand with it. So I have to give it a 3. Like Dana said, I didn't really find the movie to be intriguing enough for me to watch again. And with the plot holes, I think there were more more cons than pros. And so I really, in my notes, didn't really, and even just hearing from you all, it amplified why I think it was kind of middle of the grade. Wasn't a 4, damn sure not a 5, but it's something I wouldn't see again. And it's sometimes we do have movies in L5 that I go back and watch, or like I felt we all really liked it, and I will go back and watch it. This ain't one of them. So unfortunately. So
Okay, well, I'll be the odd man out. It went up for me, and so I'm giving it a 4-star. I really enjoyed it enough. I feel like the dialogue and just the characters themselves I liked a lot for me to keep watching it. It kept my interest. About the third act, I started to fall a little bit asleep just because it was really getting convoluted at that point. But I still enjoyed it for the most part. I would definitely recommend it to somebody like my father. I think my father would enjoy it, but he'll probably fall asleep halfway through it. But I don't know.
I fell asleep and it was really convoluted, but I'll give it a 4.
He falls asleep.
I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but I liked it.
He falls asleep at everything. But I mean, yeah, there was a lot of things that didn't really connect, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it. I don't know. I liked it.
It looked good.
It did look good.
it did look good. I will say that. Brian.
Except for the fisheye, it looked good.
Yeah.
What about the cop? Like, I confused about, was he dirty? Was he legit? Like, he seemed legit at the end, but then he was dirty because he took the money. And in the first place, what was he?
John Hamm's character.
Supposed to be?
That was so goofy.
Yeah.
It was so goofy. He's sitting there, returned all that money, and all the guy could do was give him that bottle of alcohol.
$88 on the market.
Do you think a dirty Detroit cop would have said, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, screw you, bam, bam, I'm taking the suitcase.
Yeah.
I felt like maybe he had something over the cop. Like, it felt like there had to be something else I was missing.
Better yet, Brian, he could have just delivered the suitcase and not given him the extra 50. I mean, you know, Matt Damon didn't know about the extra 50 anyways.
Yeah, but the cop probably didn't know that there was extra in there. He didn't know that there was extra. He didn't know what numbers were going around. I don't know.
I will say this is the one movie where in the Discord on my phone versus the TV remote, I was like, pause. This like it is yo, I was about to have an aneurysm. Like, pause, rewind. This like it was so much going on that like I couldn't even type in. I was like, I got lost. And not because I wasn't paying attention, but there's so many intricate details. So I mean, I do get Corey, like I was between the 3.5, but I do like that there is a little replay factor, but I think I got a little bit over it after the second act. I was like, okay, man, like it was just so much stuff that I wanted them to highlight some stuff, put the microscope on it. And then you go to something else. Stop like jump rope, jump. And so I kept pausing and kind of like you and Dana, like, that kind of annoyed me, like especially after the first hour, bro. I was like, okay, man, I'm gonna stop. Look, if I missed it, I'm gonna just wait till L5 tomorrow. So, or whatever. So for me, I think this is the one film where it just made me go back and like kind of like rewind and stuff like that. And it's different from a movie like Tenet, where it's just too much. Like the timeline is like opposite, and it's too much going on where you get lost early. This was, I think, a little bit better, but it was still a little confusing where it was like, who's talking to who knows who. I did like the like white, like I think Julia Fox was the lady who was kind of cheating and doing all that type of stuff, because she hasn't, I think, been in a lot of movies. So I'm glad that she got, some shine, but it was a lot. So
Yeah.
So the one line, I quoted the line in the Discord and you brought it up. He doesn't like happiness.
Oh.
So the mom is, they ask a question, the police ask the mom a question, like something like, why do you think somebody came into your kitchen and killed this guy? And she says something as dumb as, well, he must just not like happiness. Like, can you imagine like that being something that comes out of somebody's mouth? I mean, does that seem like that's a viable thing that anybody would have ever said, even in the 50s? Or that would be an acceptable thing, like, oh, she's just a housewife, she's that vapid, she's just that, oh, he just must not want to be happy. Yeah. It just seemed like a very period thing, that seemed like that would be acceptable, but not a realistic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's why I wrote that. I was like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding.
What's the guy's name that was in Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Who had basically the main plot of David Harbour. David Harbour, the dad, yeah. I think he probably summed it up for all you guys at the end where he said, and it's only Tuesday or something like that, because there was so much going on.
I quoted that too in the chat.
It's like it's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. There was a lot of things going on in this movie, and it's only an hour and let's say 30 minutes in, and we got another half hour or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyways, so that was our review of No Sudden Move. David, yes?
Do we want to do a quick mini review, like 1 minute long of what was it called? Corey and I finished
Archive. Do you want to put that in here?
Yeah. So for all of you who watched our 17-minute movie reviews that we did previously, we actually finished one of them. Corey and I watched Archive. Did anybody else finish Archive?
I was planning on doing it.
Okay, well, so we won't spoil it for you. Did we give it a grade, Corey?
I thought I did. Let me check.
So I will.
Yes, I gave it a grade.
You did?
Okay,
go ahead.
It was a 2.
So they tried to do a big switcheroo on you at the end? No.
He was a robot.
17.
No. So and in the first 17, you know how we were talking about, we didn't understand how he went from prototype 1 to 2, which is like iPhone 1 and 2, to like iPhone 12 Max Pro, double wide plus, and we didn't understand how that was step 3. Exactly. Like the more and more you get into it, no. it gets even worse. It gets even worse. But they try to give us a reason for it in the end. I'm not buying it.
Not buying that for 1 second. I gave it a 2 just because I've seen worse than this, but it's barely above those. I mean, that ending, it's so bad. And the whole time we're sitting there watching it, we're going, this doesn't make any sense. And we're like, well, we kept asking the question over and over and over, just like Dana just said, how do you get from Robot 1 to Robot 3? Because this makes no sense. And without spoiling it, Robot 3 evolves even more. And I'm like, no, there's no way. There's no way this is possible. It's absolutely impossible.
Well, would it be possible if the AI was evolving itself? The physical part?
No, because I don't think he would have been sophisticated enough to even write AI that could then do anything for itself.
Yeah. But that would be a plausible way of making that plausible, right?
Maybe, but
that's not that movie.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
that
no.
many. There would have still
Yeah.
been more than 2 to 3. So just
Right.
to tell you a little bit, the first robot got to the age of like, I think
5.
of 5.
Yeah.
The second robot, so this is talking about brain age. So the first
Mhm.
robot was a 5-year-old. The second robot was a teenager.
Right.
And then the third robot was like, I guess 20 something or
Right.
whatever. It was a fully
Adult.
adult.
Except
and
20-year-olds,
so-
their brains are still not fully formed. They are still forming.
Who, where?
The 20year-olds, the
Oh, okay.
college
So,
age kids, right, Jeremy?
okay. Early 30
Yes,
year old.
this is
I don't
accurate.
know. Anyway,
This is accurate.
and I will say that Robot 2 was definitely a teenager.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Had all the characteristics of a teenager.
All of it. But also a lot of warning signs of everything that we've heard about AI
Yeah.
and things that we know. She would have been shut down.
Right.
Like, and he didn't shut her down for whatever reason. But
They
it
don't
was,
follow the 3 laws.
huh?
They don't follow the 3 laws.
No, they don't follow the 3 laws. No. What is that? I Am Legend.
I Robot.
I,
but-
Robot.
I
Sorry.
Robot.
Same movie, different location.
What-
But yeah,
what-
they didn't follow the 3 laws at all. So I just, yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. I felt like conceptually, like where they were.
The concept is great.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was good. It could have been something, but it wasn't.
It had lots of potential. But it just
But there is something interesting in the movie that could give you pause for thought for a second.
Yes.
You know, if this was something that existed.
yeah.
Did y'all watch Ex Machina? Was that good to y'all?
Oh,
then
Ex
I was
Machina
gonna-
was great.
It was
really loved
great.
Ex Machina.
Okay, but this
Yeah.
movie is going the opposite.
It needed a second movie. That's what it needed. Like,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, you seen it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody seen it? Okay, then never mind. So I won't.
Jeremy saw it.
But anyway,
What?
it needs a second movie because I need to see what happens now.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But no, this was not that at all.
Mhm.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you wanna watch something, an alternative, you're interested in AI and preserving the memory of someone you've lost. Was it the Amazon series
Oh yeah,
Upload?
Yeah.
Oh
Upload.
yeah, that was good.
Go watch that instead.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to get a season 2. Then COVID happened, so I don't know. But that was great. I love that series. It was great.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Watch Upload and watch Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Much better choices than Archive. So that was our wrap-up review of Archive and No Sudden Move on HBO Max. Archive is on Amazon Prime, but you don't need to know that because you don't need to watch it. So with all that being said, we will see you guys next time.